what artist or band would you have liked to have seen at the final Sabbath Ozzy show?
That wasn't there?
Yeah.
Saliva?
All right, before we begin the show, let's thank our sponsors. First and foremost, our title sponsor, Once Upon a Coconut. All natural, non-GMO coconut water with natural electrolytes and no added sugar. You can choose from pure blueberry, pineapple, watermelon, sparkling energy, and chocolate flavors with Once Upon a Coconut. Stay hydrated and refreshed. And if you're wondering why it tastes so darn good, it's due to a combination of factors, including the freshness and sweetness of young coconut water, the lack of additives, and the natural electrolytes present. And the best part about it, Once Upon a Coconut, 10% of profits go to charity that benefit our communities, including the Down Syndrome Foundation, Breast Cancer Foundation, Leukemia Society. Good things, good people, great product. So you can grab it at some Sprouts, you can grab it on Amazon, you can go online to find a store near you or purchase it right there off of their website, onceuponacoconut.com. It is delish. Big thanks to Inspect All Pest Services, our buddy Nick and the crew over at Inspect All Pest Services, providing the highest quality termite, pest, and wildlife control. That's not all they do. Inspect All can take care of your insulation, pressure washing, gutter maintenance, and other home services in Metro Atlanta and the surrounding areas. Remember, seasonal, you get different bugs and critters all around your house, so you want to go with the best in the business, and that would be one of our fine sponsors from day one, InspectAllServices.com. It's the Mad Dog, Manny Aurora, with the Aurora Law Firm, best darn defense attorney in the world, litigating all over the United States, based out of Georgia. We're talking criminal defense, white-collar crime, DUI, drug offenses, appeals, and more. And you can always get your legal questions answered by the Mad Dog, Manny Aurora, by getting those to me. And when he pops up on a show, you get your questions answered. So go to thebaileyshow.com and we'll get those questions to the Mad Dog. The Aurora Law Firm.com. He is the best in the business when it comes to therapists. There's no doubt about that. I use them, and so should you. We're talking about Dr. David Markwell with Ridgeline Counseling. He's got 10 therapists in-house, 3 different locations there in Georgia, one across from Sprayberry High School in Sandy Plains in East Cobb, Marietta near the Square in McKaysville, just outside of Blue Ridge. But if you're not in Georgia and you need to talk to the good doctor, then you can go online and get virtual sessions. Ridgeline Counseling at gmail.com if you'd like to email him directly, or go online to markwelltherapy.com. There is no better time to check if your insurance is any good. That's why FBC Insurance is waiting for you to reach out. You can call them at 888-308-1841 or email them info@fbcinsuranceservices.com. I just switched up my car insurance because I got a better deal at FBC Insurance. They were the people to find it. Perfect for new homeowners, especially if you're trying to reshop those current insurance policies. 5-star service, multi-policy, bundled discounts, and they're going to shop every carrier out there to find the best insurance for your house, flood, storm season, auto, motorcycle, boat, recreational vehicle, or just a personal policy. 888-308-1841 or go online, FBCInsuranceServices.com. Another one of our great sponsors in storm season. You have to talk to the good people at Alternate Power Solutions of Georgia. Family owned and operated. They are a Generac generator dealer, founded in 2012. So storm season, power goes out. Who knows when it's coming back on? Don't be that guy or girl that does not have a backup plan and having power for whatever it be, especially medical devices, fans, air conditioning, so on and so forth. Offering sales, service, installation, and repair of automatic home standby and portable generators, every single one of you. When you become a customer at Alternate Power Solutions of Georgia, you get an upgraded warranty, free monitoring, and warranty repair. A+ rating with a BB&B, and you pay nothing until the job is complete. Call or request a free home assessment and go to their website, poweringgeorgia.com, or buzz them at 770-853-7571. Use the discount code Bailey, my last name, and get $500 off your entire installation. All right? Servicing Georgia and Tennessee. Again, another great sponsor of the BS podcast that is going to come to your aid here during storm season. And I'm talking about Cliff Bratcher and Jayco Contracting. This one hits home for me because I needed advice from Cliff and Jayco Contracting when my mother got a hole in her roof. Now, Jayco Contracting helping the good folks out in Georgia. And if you're in Georgia, you call him this storm season just to know that you're going to be taken care of when that tree falls through your roof or your shingles come off or a hole somehow appears. service, right? They are a platinum preferred contractor with Owens Corning, licensed and insured roofing and gutter specialists covering all of Georgia. Keep in mind, if you've not gone through this process, Cliff and Jayco Contracting are going to take care of it from start to finish. That means dealing with the insurance companies. That can be a headache and a negotiation, and they're the best to do it. Commercial and residential satisfaction guaranteed. JaycoContracting.com, or 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. You give Cliff Brasher a call at 770-316-3876. Alive Ozone Therapy Spa in Altamont Springs, Florida. This is mine and my wife's wellness spa. If you have an autoimmune, cancer, HIV, just simple biohacking, long COVID, the answer is yes to just about anything that's going on in your body. Most of the time it starts with inflammation, and ozone therapy, it decreases inflammation. So ozone therapy, we are the first and only to do it in Central Florida. That is Alive Ozone Therapy Spa. We also offer red light therapy, halo therapy, pressotherapy, PMF grounding mat, as well as naturally in-house made ozone infused products like the magnesium butter that many of you absolutely love. Ozone therapy, what is it? Quickly, it repairs and rejuvenates your cells to the mitochondrial level by using activated oxygen. Simple as that. No side effects. That's all there is to it. It's a 30-minute session, and you actually burn up to 600 calories when you're in the Hocket sauna. We do it the most non-invasive way. So whether you're in the area or you want to travel, book an appointment, AliveOzoneTherapySpa.com. All the products you can get there as well. And remember, for you two peers, use the discount code BS10 to take that off those online products. If you want to be a sponsor of the show, reach out to me via thebaileyshow.com. And if you are a listener of this podcast and you need any of our great sponsors, please reach out to them. Now, let's begin.
I think we should do a podcast about rock and roll. And that's what stories.
Yeah, let's do it. Welcome to the Vinyl Road Podcast.
All right, there it is, episode 6 of the Vinyl Road Podcast, all on the BPX, Bailey Podcast Exchange. Thanks for being here. My name's Jason Bailey right there. That is the man himself, Mr. Brad Stewart. How are you, sir?
I'm good.
Yow! Yow! You notice you and I, not planned, we're both wearing stars between our breasts.
What do you got?
I've got a sleeveless shirt on. I just got back from the gym, so I got like an Under Armour sleeveless shirt. I just put a hoodie on, so I looked kind of presentable for our broadcast.
I think you look nice.
Yeah, well, thank you, sir. I think you look nice as well. So,
do you want to see what mine is?
Yeah, what is it? It's it's Saliva. Oh, that's a cool shirt. Let me tell you. So there's something to be said about like merch for a band, right? You know, like the radio industry, it's impossible, not difficult, impossible to find a radio t-shirt that's cool to wear. The only way radio t-shirts become cool to wear is when they become nostalgic, right? You know, or they're, you know, like a celebrity is wearing it out and they see it and it becomes like a retro-y thing. Saliva, I've always thought, has cool graphic-y, you know what I mean? Like cool stuff. You agree?
I do, for the most part. I mean, you know, and it's kind of funny, you know, the fans and what people think is cool. I remember back in the Shinedown days, there was this Shinedown t-shirt, and everyone's like, in the band is like, that's the worst shirt ever. It ended up being the best-selling shirt that we ever had when I was in the band. So it's like weird. I think Saliva, this was from the 2008 tour. I actually filled in for Dave on, you know, Josie was still in the band and everything, of course. And they kind of did a thing, not to copy like, you know, Guns N' Roses, but it was their faces as skulls, kind of like, you know, an Appetite. And I thought whoever designed it did a killer job. And like, I think even Wayne like had a pick, like on his picks, it was this same graphic on that tour. It's pretty cool stuff, man.
Saliva owns the star. Like the star's synonymous with saliva. I remember doing the graphic when we did Podcast Empors 4, and I was like, I never realized the star is like synonymous with the logo. So I remember I used the stars in the different places in the graphic. And like I always thought like the little things about bands are so intriguing. You know, if I were to do a documentary, write a book, the things that never get talked about is like, where'd the logo come from? Who designed it? Why did they design it? that song, I've always wanted to do a documentary or write a book about big songs that are about women and what's the backstory and where are they now. Every rose has its thorn, My Michelle, all those types of things. I mind all over the place. If you ever want to get in on a project with me, buddy, there you go.
Yeah, man.
So anyway, people,
go ahead.
I was gonna say people loved Will last week. Will Martin. They
love Will, man. Yeah, Will had some really. I listened back. Of course, I listened back to our podcast, and I was at the gym yesterday listening, and he had a very cool and interesting perspective on things, and he's been in it for a long time. So I value his opinion, and I know that, and he's kind of got back in it, and he's like, man, it's the same. The same bullshit, just a different time, or if not worse bullshit with the business, but at least he's stoked to be writing and recording and playing out again here soon. So it's cool stuff, man.
We've had that conversation before of, you guys being in very successful rock bands, like your time, when you were out of Shinedown, you went back to a civilian job, right?
Yeah.
It's just, it's soul scratching. But there are some people, Will takes 17, 18 years off until he just puts out new Earshot music. And, I look at it again, I'm looking at it from the radio side of things, is I'll probably never go back to terrestrial radio in the way that I did it for 30 years. It's just the business has changed. The people that run it, I'm not a fan of. There's no money in it like it used to be. And then you try to reinvent yourself and find things to do at 50. I can't imagine being a rock star and having to do that. Like that would, just the ego part of it alone would kill me.
Yeah, it kind of hurts. and and you don't want to feel like the old guy either, like you whippersnappers and these young bands out here, and they've figured out a way to navigate it in the new way, I guess you could say. And so having been in it for so long, we have to remind ourselves that you can't look at things from the perspective of the way you've experienced it so long ago. You have to stay with what's happening, whether you like it or not, with what's happening now and how things are happening in music and rock and roll stuff, man. I mean, we've had this discussion before on the award shows. It's like the last thing mentioned is, oh, and by the way, the rock, who won best rock song? Like it's like at the end, or it's not even televised. It's there, like on the Grammys. But then everyone claims like they're rock stars. All the country people dressed like they're in a rock and roll band. It's odd, man. Like,
well, what rock and roll always had up until probably, the world changed, let's just say, is rock and roll was always rebellious, sex, drugs, rock and roll, fighting the man, fighting the machine, and all that kind of stuff. And then everybody started doing that. So, you look at there's top 40 artists that are outlandish. There are country artists that are outlandish. So everybody's got that, rebellious thing. I mean, you go back to the 80s and it was, if you had long hair and a tattoo, not tattoos, but just a tattoo, a bandana around your ripped jeans. I mean, you were a thug. You were a bad element standing outside a 7-Eleven smoking a cigarette. That was the bad guy. And that's what gravitated you towards rock and roll, was that. And it's just all changed. And so that rock has been watered down because of that and because of society. I mean, that's what I think personally.
I do too. And those same musicians and their music are now, you can now hear it on the easy listening station, which is it's comical. Some of those metal bands, I'm like, I don't know how metal any of that shit was, honestly, but it was marketed that way. Mm-hmm. And then you hear the metal band on the easy listening pops, or I guess it'd be adult contemporary station. And I'm like, but then you think back to when those guys were dangerous and, your parents didn't want you to listen to their music because the way they looked and the way they acted with all these chicks and drugs and groupies and all this shit, mm-hmm. But then here they are, and shit, a lot of them are dead too. I mean, it's pretty, people dropping like flies lately, man. It's weird.
I'll one up that. You go into the grocery store and you hear, you hear Guns N' Roses, or I heard Ozzy, we'll talk about Ozzy in a second, but I heard Mama, I'm Coming Home, I think at Publix the other day. Yeah. And it was there was something to be said about the exclusivity of your music, which was rock and roll, that wasn't played in certain places because it was considered, fill in the blank. And it's not like that anymore. Now, it's great for residuals or ever how that works, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But for the fan, it's tough to say that that's mine. It's mine and no one else's. And I want you to hate on it because I don't want you in my bubble. These are my people. Go fuck yourself. That doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't. It's like discovering a band too. Like back in the day, you're like, and then they got popular and everyone found out about them. Then you're just bummed because you're like, man, that was my band. And those people shouldn't like them because I liked them first and I want to keep them to myself. And then you almost get to where you're disenchanted with that band that you originally were so stoked about, that you discovered, and that no one, you felt special because no one knew who they were. And then the label puts out, Sweet Child of Mine, and you're like, oh man,
Well,
I liked him when it was, Welcome to the Jungle better, or it's sleazy and he's got tattoo. Anyway.
Yeah, the fans, the most diehard fans, in my opinion, that are like that are the punk fans. And if you go back to the early 2000s, when Shinedown and Saliva and these bands, became a thing, it was the last rock and roll revolution that we had. There was a really cool mixture. I know I talk about this all the time, but I lived it, being in that radio world where it was the new rock alternative. But there was a huge influx of these pop punk bands, and even true punk bands like CYK, and then you had bands like Starting Line, and then you start to, for the new listener, the younger person, they're starting to find out about Fugazi and the true punk bands, and it was cool, but there was already a cult like fan base for those bands in their community, most of them like SoCal and stuff like that. And then when they start getting played on the radio, that to me was the last time that I heard the term, and that era, that decade of selling out. That was the selling out moment.
Well, Metallica too. Of course, Metallica built, its career in the early days on being an underground metal band. They were opening for Ozzy and they opening for Anthrax, and actually the way most people found out about Metallica was someone had dubbed their tape of a Metallica record, and you got like a free copy of it because your buddy had bought it. So I thought that was interesting when Lars got all pissed about the Napster shit. I'm like, bro, that most people found out about your band by getting it for free from someone fucking dubbing the thing off the fucking cassette recorder, right? But it was just like that band, Master of Puppets, they were so heavy, but they still had a lot of fans, and they were just such a badass band. And then you started seeing it change around Justice for All, right? And after Cliff had passed and stuff. Now I did love the 598 EP Garage Days. That's fucking sick, covers and shit. But then when the Black record came, and I remember Jason Newsted saying, "Yeah, we sell out every time we play, every place we play." Do you remember this? Do you remember him saying that? Because he was, they're calling fucking sellouts, and it was, as a fan from the very beginning of that, it was different to see. I was happy for him that they crossed into that next, really into the stratosphere. And at this point, they're the biggest band out there. But it's like you're saying, like, but now they're no longer, they're just someone else's band. It felt like,
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Metallica is going to be a little bit different. And I know I'm biased on this because I'm a Metallica fan. But knowing about Injustice for All, but still that album was looked at as like, again, you're the dirty guy, you're the thug, this is not everybody music. Right. Metallica had to do what every other band at the time had to do as well, and that's get friendly with MTV. Yeah. MTV, outside of Headbangers Ball, which was not at the beginning of MTV in '81. I mean, that came much later, I believe. When One was released, and that was the song that
was it. I was just gonna say One was the game changer for sure. Right.
that
Right.
made Metallica to a mainstream audience, because not only was it heavy, but it was easy on the ears for those that weren't into heavy metal. But the message, like, you could not deny the lyrics to that song. Like, if you talk shit about Metallica's One, you were a commie. You know what I mean? You were just a horrible, horrible person. It was like every box was checked for them with that song at that time, at that moment. Couldn't have been any better.
No. The planets, the stars aligned for them at that point, and all that work they'd put in for all those years. You know, you hear them telling stories about sleeping on the floor of the club because they didn't have a bus to sleep in. They had a van, and they're opening for Anthrax or something. And then now, I mean, they probably each have their own plane, their own G6 they're flying around or whatever it is. I mean, those guys are they're untouchable at this point.
But they're I've interviewed James before, and it's one of my standout moments in my career, because my mini disc player ran out of batteries. It was at the Summer Sanitarium tour, which was 2000 whatever, in Orlando, at that stop. And I was new to rock radio, and so this is probably 2001, 2002. And I went, and they brought us into this trailer, and I'm just waiting there with my promo guy. And there's just a desk, and we didn't know who we were going to talk to. So I had notes on everybody. Actually, I have it framed in my studio here. And then James Hetfield walks in with his handler, and it just like sucked the air out of the room. And he was the nicest guy. And I didn't know that he had just gotten out of rehab. Again, this is me being young in the business and stupid. I just get into rock radio, and I'm partying all day. Like, I just got done interviewing Chino at the Deftones, and he was smoking a joint, blowing the smoke in my face. And I'm in there, and I had no idea. And so I'm talking to him, and I'm doing probably what was a horrible, basic amateurish interview. And then the batteries run out on my mini disc player, and I hear the click. And in my head, I'm going, don't say anything. Don't say anything. Promo guy, don't say anything. Don't say anything. I was just going to finish it up and mock it and pretend like that's what happened. And the promo guy, hey man, this stopped. I'm like, shit. I was like, if there's any more juice in it. And he starts it again, and click, it goes again. I'm like, I was like, all right, I'll figure it out. I'll edit. I'll edit and post, I'll get it in post. And then I had this little Sprint flip phone. It was silver and like blue. And I said, would you mind leaving me a liner? It's like, hey, it's James Hetfield. You're listening to Buckethead. Leave me a liner of my voicemail. I'll figure how to get it off. And he did it. He did it. It was
that's sick. Cool. Yeah. That's so sick. I heard he's super cool. And I've listened to him, some interviews with him, of course, and just watched him over the years. And he don't take any bullshit from people though either, especially interviewers and in his own band too. I mean, dude's pretty straight up guy. I mean, that's such an honor you got to meet him and interview him, man. I had their posters on my wall when I was fucking 10, dude. Like, that's
when I was in Atlanta,
skateboarder and shit.
I got, me and my partner at the time got to sit down with Kirk and do an interview backstage, and we did it so when Metallica performs, they have a rehearsal room.
Yeah,
the carpets, and I mean, it's done up, it's badass. And we got to interview Kirk Hammett in that room. And Kirk was not what I expected. He was very nice. He was very, very nice. He was a very good interview, but he was more, I didn't expect him to be as aggressive with his answers. Like he ran the room. I mean, he was in charge. I didn't expect that from him. I thought he'd be more passive. James was fairly passive. Kirk was pretty aggressive. I'm assuming Lars is probably aggressive. Rob is, I would say, passive, even though he looks aggressive. That's if I were to guess. I don't know. I haven't interviewed those guys.
That is interesting too, because I always thought that Kirk was more like, he was always in the middle between Lars and James going at it. So I would think he would be the passive guy between their aggression against each other, because it seemed like they were always fucking at each other's throats. Because, James is a hell of a drummer. You know that, right?
I did not know that.
He's a fucking badass drummer. So I'm sure when they're going over parts, he has a a say in what's going on. I mean, and a lot of times he's writing the riffs too. You know what I mean? A lot of those, I say the lion's share of those riffs that's James. You know, and he'll even do of course, on some of the records, he'll do the solo parts too. It's not Kirk, and you can definitely tell I can tell anyway when James versus Kirk playing, especially on those early records. Kirk's more note. He plays a lot more. He's more. He's busier, I guess you'd say. James has a bit more soul and a little bit more David Gilmour in it, and a little less, Satriani, if that makes sense. He's just tasteful. He's just a tasteful player, and I mean, think of the lyrics too, going back to Master of Puppets or Kill 'Em All. I mean, those lyrics. I mean, just the way he writes and the way he puts the songs together. They're just so interesting to me. I always thought that was so cool. That's like when I said when it started to change for them, when Justice hit, they kind of got away from the 6 minutes of every riff they could jam into one song kind of thing. You know what I mean? And they started making more like songs that might go on the radio or be cut up for MTV and stuff like on. And hey man, that's cool. But that's what it was heading towards, I guess, the whole time. But
yeah, I know that whenever I had to drop, because I'd always talk too much on my radio shows and when I was playing music, and I had Metallica, Master of Puppets or something coming up, 7-8 minute songs, and and then you also have like Tool, Sober, or H, in the same hour, and you're like, shit, am I even going to say anything this hour? So I would swap them out, and it would always be like Fuel. I'd pop out Metallica, give me fuel, give me fire, give me water. I love that song.
Yeah,
and I loved it even more because it was like 4:38. 4 minutes and 38 seconds.
A bit more in line with radio format. So you could actually say something between the songs.
The one thing, one of many things, but which will get us to the conversation here. The one thing that I love about Metallica in any band, especially that's at that level, is when they pay tribute to those that came before them. And the Back to the Beginning show, Black Sabbath's last show, Ozzy Osbourne's last show, Metallica, Guns N' Roses, Steven Tyler, David Draymond, Slipknot, Youngblood. I mean, all these artists out there.
Youngblood killed, dude. So did Rival Sons. Rival Sons, I was impressed because, dude, singing Ozzy is tough, man. I don't care who you are. And you watch some of those guys in those bands, those singers were struggling. I thought some of them were struggling, man. Not to dime anyone out or throw anyone under the bus, but I mean, Ozzy his voice is very distinct, right? And those notes he's hitting are not easy notes to hit, man. And even some of those really good singers on that bill you just spoke of that farewell thing, I mean, they were having not, but the Rival Sons guy, I felt Youngblood, those guys crushed, I thought. Yeah. Did you see any of those performances?
Yeah, I saw most of them, and I was going to get to that here in a minute, but since you brought it up, Brad,
sorry, I jumped the gun. I'm terrible.
No. Listen, I wasn't familiar. I mean, I've heard the name Youngblood before. I was not familiar with him. I am a Youngblood fan from here on out. Yeah. I think that performance, he did Changes, right? And that performance is going to make him the next thing. And I think he's got so much longevity. I started following him on social media, and I started going back and watching these videos. Like, the guy's not a douchebag. The guy's so cool. He cares so much for his fans. He's just a dude. Like, there's plenty of videos of him just hanging out at a coffee shop, and somebody comes up and he's like, hey, you want me to sign this thing for you? Like, just like the sweetest guy in the world. Yeah. I don't know why he has such a stupid name. I'm not a fan of the name, but the dude is way talented.
Very talented. My wife got into him somewhat recently, and it's been playing it a lot. And I'm absorbing it, of course, and I appreciate it. It kind of feels almost like The Used a little bit in his voice in some of the cuts, but a bit more in tune, should I say? And I love The Used, but sometimes Bert, he wasn't quite in there. You know what I mean? But the fucking emotion was completely there. Yeah. But they kept it. They didn't pitch him around, I don't think, too much. But But the Youngblood guy's got that kind of emotion, but his voice is dialed, like his pitch is in there, man. And like I said, singing Ozzy, dude, you can make an ass out of yourself if it ain't right. And he crushed that shit. He knocked it out of the fucking park. And even, I was watching Guns N' Roses, man, and I felt like Axl was having some timing issues. Did you see any of the Guns N' Roses?
I saw the GNR stuff, yeah.
I was like, man, it was like the band was playing at a certain at a tempo and at a pace of the song, and he was in and out of being in the proper pocket, if you will. Did you get that too?
No,
Did you? You didn't see that? And I'm trying to think which song it was specifically, but I was kind of like, huh. It was bizarre to me because I was expecting it to be, and maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. Go back and look at at it though with that in mind, and you'll notice like the guys in the band are kind of like they're playing and it's happening, but it's not really lining up. The vocal with it, it's like I don't know.
I saw on Ozzy's social media, he said, I think he said it was the first time he had ever met Axl Rose.
I saw that too. Maybe he's losing it?
Well,
maybe,
yeah.
Well, I mean, well, he's actually has always kind of lost it. I mean, he's a fucking crazy bastard. But
how funny would that be? Ozzy Osbourne posts on his social media. Well, I'm sure he didn't post it, but it's posted on his social media that this is the first time I got to meet Axl Rose, and there's a picture of it. And then Axl pulls up his Instagram the next day, and he's like, "What the shit, man? We've met like 40 times over the years."
Like, maybe it's the first time he's met him with that haircut. I don't know. I mean, he's used to the red, long hair. That could be. It was a haircut thing. He didn't recognize him or something.
Oh, I thought what I saw of it, I thought it was phenomenal. Here's something that I found interesting that maybe, for those listening to you, Brad, too, that did not observe this. So when it took place, all right, now granted it was in England, right? When it took place, it happened. And I didn't see any. Now, this could just be a me thing. I didn't see any live social media, instant social media. I didn't see clips from the Final Sabbath Ozzy show until like at least 24 hours later. If in my head, I'm thinking the reason why, this is the coolest thing ever. That means that every single fan that packed that stadium didn't give a shit about social media, bless your heart, and just was fixated on the show. I want to say that was the case. I don't know if you got that vibe, and because I was looking, I'm going, where's everything? I mean, I even did a search to try to find stuff, and I didn't see anything.
It took them a day to process it and to get it, because most people are trying to be the first to post it. And, look, right. I'm here. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me.
Yeah.
And that wasn't really happening. I mean, Maynard, from Tool, he has people he gets pissed when people are filming. I think you leave the phones at the door or something at some of those places, I see what I get where he's coming from on that part, because he, in his philosophy, in the way he looks at it, he's like, if you're focusing on your phone, you're not really in the moment. You're missing it. Even though you think you're capturing it with your phone, you're actually missing what's happening. And I tend to agree with him. I mean, the way he approaches it, he's kind of a Nazi about it, and it's like, it's kind of their experience to have, and they paid the ticket, they paid for the, whatever. But I do see what he's saying, because it's, and like when you go back and look at your phone footage, it's kind of shit, right? I mean, it's not like a pro thing that's been like, the sound is fucked usually, and so it's like, I don't know.
Well, let's be honest. Most people are filming waiting for turn 4, right? They're waiting for the car crash. That's
true too. They're waiting for the Wes Scantlin to get his backpack and walk off stage.
Yeah,
and cuss everybody out. Shit, yeah.
They're looking for the Bobby Doll to swing his bass at Bret Michaels. They're looking for Kevin Martin to fall down on stage at the Hard Rock in Orlando.
Sammy Hagar to get kicked in the nuts by Eddie Van Halen, which I witnessed.
Okay,
on stage. Yeah, I was like, damn, dude, it got weird. Yeah.
They're looking for Perry Farrell and
Dave Navarro. Yeah, that's true.
Dave Navarro to get in the fight. That's the majority of people, that's why you're filming. You're not filming it to document it. You know, maybe you are, but I mean, not like fully document. Most of that footage is you're never going to get to, you know, especially if you're just filming and filming and filming.
Yeah.
So yeah, if that's true from the Sabbath Ozzy stuff, I think that's amazing that those fans were so in tune and wanted to be there that they just said, you know what, we'll get to social media another day. I think that makes my heart full, right? That just makes me so happy to think that was the case. You know, that's pretty cool. I thought that was cool. Did you see Jason Momoa hosting and what he was doing? Like, this is fucking Aquaman, dude.
Dude, he was pitting down there, bro. I was like, hell yeah. I was like, that's so hardcore and cool. I mean, I always I always thought he was cool anyway, but like, you know, he's a bass player. Oof Tata is his band. Did you know he plays?
I had no idea.
Yeah, he plays Fenders, I'm pretty sure, like the same P basses I play. But yeah, it's called Oof Tata, I think is the name of his band, and he tours around the world playing music, you know, and I'm probably slaying everything under the sun too while he's at it, because every woman, I think, that's their like dream guy, right? I mean,
my dream guy. Yeah,
I gotta admit, the guy is a handsome dude, you know.
I mean, and after watching him at the Sabbath Ozzy show, he's like, if I could rent him as a friend for a day, I would. Just watching how fucking cool
he's cool, dude.
Jason Momoa was at that show.
Yeah. I mean, and everyone, even I'm sure, like you know, Phil Anselmo's right there, and they think he's cool. So I mean, like, you know, it's just that was fun to see him getting out there and getting in, you know, getting in the pit and getting crazy.
Yeah,
that was fun, man.
So Kelly Osbourne got engaged to Sid from Slipknot. I thought that was pretty cool. You know, this was, I know that, you know, from what I read, Sharon Osbourne has put this together to help Ozzy with his Parkinson's and the issues that he's going with. And, you know, for the fans, one last final show. But this is very reminiscent of when Netflix comes out with a biopic on an aging, you know, actor or musician, you know, their time is coming, which is very, very sad, because there will never be another Ozzy Osbourne ever.
No,
ever.
Won't.
You know, and I think
the guy snorts ants and shit. I mean, this dude he's a mess, dude. But yeah, you know, did you hear him though when Sid proposed? He was like, "Yeah, fucking man, my daughter." he said, "Fuck no, you ain't, son." And meanwhile, they have a kid together and all this, and he was like, "No." I thought that was comical. Did you catch that?
I saw. But think about this. Okay, that's cool. You know. You're in Slipknot. Slipknot's badass band. I love Corey Taylor. He's one of my favorite artists of all time. Love Corey Taylor. But still, you are proposing to the daughter of the Prince of Darkness. I don't care if he's got Parkinson's or not.
Yeah.
That takes huge balls. But, you know, good on you, brother, because you did it the right way. I'm sure you talked to him before and talked to Sharon before and stuff. He seems like that kind of guy. He would do that. But I'm just sitting there and I'm watching him going, man, I hope this goes well for you.
This could go a lot of different ways. And yeah. Hopefully it goes well, though. Shit, man. I mean, Ozzy could put a curse on you or something, or the devil come up out of hell and fucking bring you back down there with him.
Here's what I would have liked to have seen when Sid from Slipknot proposed to Kelly Osbourne in front of Ozzy Osbourne and Sharon at the final Sabbath Ozzy show. One last rock and roll moment from the Prince of Darkness. When Sid shows Ozzy the ring, he grabs the ring and swallows
it. Yeah.
That's rock and roll.
That would be.
And then
he couldn't really bite it in half like he did the bat, or bite the head off the finger.
Then he says to him, he goes, if you want it, you can find it in my shit.
Pick it out with the peanuts out of my shit. Fuck, that would be. Now I could see him doing that, honestly, more than. I mean, he's got something going up there, man. Oh, that's pretty
cool. Yeah. So for whatever reason, and I'm assuming it's political, which sucks that had to come into the show. the internet was saying David Draymond of Disturbed got booed. And then Draymond addressed it and said that that was not the case. It was an editing thing on the stream because it was live streamed, right? So, I mean, I'm talking about the social media stuff. I understand it was live streamed, but I'm talking about from the fans' perspective. And Draymond said it wasn't true. I went and watched the clip. I didn't really hear whatever the internet was saying. I'm assuming that's propaganda from people that hate Draymond's political views. I'm assuming.
I thought it was something to do with is someone was saying it was because he stands with Israel and he's Jewish and that people
Oh yeah,
just
that's
about
what
that's
I'm
that's the
talking about.
that's
Yeah,
the politics you're talking about. I mean,
that's all
I,
he posts about. That's all he posts about. That's
well,
all he posts about.
I mean, I guess I could see people getting. I mean, because there's obviously going to be the other side to that, to the
Yeah,
politics in that situation. But I mean, there's a time and a place. I think we've been over this before. And the Rock show. I mean, it's pretty lame that people booed him, regardless of his stance.
I agree.
I think that's pretty weak. And I know John Moyer personally, the bass player of Disturbed. He's been with them, God, 20 years. Seems like he's been with them a long time. And I met David a couple times just in passing, just because we played shows with him back in the day in any band I've been in. And the guy, he comes across as a pretty solid dude. And
Draymond's awesome. Yeah,
I
he's a
mean,
great dude. Yeah.
and John's a super cool dude. And I think, and everything he's ever even said about David has been pretty positive. I mean, the guy's, so I hate to see someone go through that's actually a good dude to go through that when have the crowd go against him in any way. But I mean, I guess if you're putting things out there that's controversial, people are going to disagree with it, and I guess they'll act out.
Yeah, but I mean, like, who on that stage hasn't done something that's controversial, right, or said something? John, who did he replace in Disturbed?
He's not the OG. I can't think of the original guy. He's been in it so long, it seems like he is. But
Fuzz is still in Disturbed, right? Or no, did he replace Fuzz?
I think he replaced Fuzz.
What was Fuzz anyway? Because I think so. An old friend of mine was offered that job before. I'm assuming before John, and he turned it down. It's a very similar story to someone I know because he wanted to stay loyal to the band, but he was the original bassist for Nonpoint, and he had been offered that gig with Disturbed. This was been back in the Believe days, I guess. And so, and he turned it down. And then just afterwards, he and the lead guitarist left the band and never to play a bass again. Sold and gave away all his Pepto-Bismol. His name's Ken, but sold all of his pink basses, just like totally out of the business. Haven't talked to the guy in years. He just totally went MIA. I'm still friends with his ex-wife, but just went MIA. Just craziest thing ever. Nuts. So
yeah, I could see that though, man, because this business, like Will was saying last week, it will chew you up and spit you out, and then you come back into it, and it does it again. And I could see people just, it's kind of like the movie Rockstar. He just one day just is like, you know what, fuck this, and he pulls old Miles Kennedy up. Yeah, you finish it. I'm fucking out of here. Never look back. I mean, I could see people doing that, selling all their gear and just saying, you know what, this just doesn't make any sense for me to do this anymore. It's just not. It's not right. It's not happening, And when I remember you telling me that story about him and him selling the pink basses and stuff, and I just like, man, I felt that way before. I have honestly considered it. I'm like looking at my instruments now. I'm like, I guess I could go that route too, but I'm still hanging in there. I guess I'm a glutton for punishment, like fucking Will said.
So with the Ozzy show and the final Black Sabbath Ozzy show, there is a story which is true. We don't, as of right now, know who it is, but there was a band that Sharon Osbourne disinvited because of some type of back and forth with this band's manager. The stories that I've read were, Sharon went and told Ozzy, and Ozzy tells her, like, you're terrible. Whether it was joking or not, I hear that it was they wanted to get paid. And I don't think any of the artists got paid to
Mm.
perform there.
Mhm.
So this band wanted to get paid. It was not Iron Maiden, even though Iron Maiden was not there, but the internet says it's not Iron Maiden.
Hmm.
Trying to figure out what band would have the balls, manager of a band would have the balls to go one-on-one with Sharon Osbourne and get disinvited to an iconic day and night show like this. Any idea? I've got a guess.
I've got a couple guesses, but you go first. And maybe I'll opt out in case. Well, hey, we may have the same band in mind. Go.
I think it's Falling in Reverse.
Okay. I was thinking it was Corn.
Ooh.
Corn, because Sharon before has had issues with Corn, and she's like, "They are so over. That band is so over." And that was like 10 years ago. She said they're over. I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure they're still ripping. I mean, granted, Fieldy, I mean, half the band's gone, but what band's not like that these days, But I was thinking Corn, man, because that would have been another iconic band that's been around in metal for a long time, and they have played Ozfest. I mean, they've had a relationship at good or bad at one point with Ozzy and Sharon, and I know though that could have been because Falling in Reverse. I mean,
Well, here
they're just so I don't know, man.
let me kind of plead my case on why.
All right.
Okay, so Falling in Reverse right now is so hot. The lead singer is just mental, right?
Yeah.
Let's just take him and the band out of it, just with the manager. And I don't know who the manager is, but the manager of this fairly new, I mean, does not have the legacy of any of those bands that were on stage as far as like GNR goes and
No.
Steven Tyler and Metallica, right? But thinking very highly of themselves and going,
Yeah.
you're lucky for us to perform there. I can see that happening over, John, and not even getting back to the band. So like, I'm even giving them a break as far as saying they had nothing to do with it. Was it Ronnie Radke or whatever? I'm just saying he had nothing to do with it. Just an overzealous, pompous manager of a hot new band that thought that they should get paid. When it comes to Korn, Jonathan Davis, I've always enjoyed talking with Jonathan Davis. I don't think the manager for that band, and again, I don't know who it is, would not put them in that predicament without having a conversation with Jonathan Davis. And I find it very hard to believe that Jonathan Davis wouldn't do everything he could to play that show. That's my case. And I rest.
Okay. The prostitution rests.
The prostitution rests. It's pretty good case I made though, right?
I bought it. I bought into it. I could see that. I mean, when you're in a band that big, I mean, maybe the management did go rogue on Korn's side and thought he was fighting for his band and he didn't run it by him. I mean, there's that possibility too. And then, in hindsight, if it soured and then the band or Jonathan's like, hey, why aren't we on this shit? And then the guy may have said, hey, well, because this, that, and the other. And then, but by that time it's too late, But I mean, are they ever going to say who it was? I mean, or I guess
I'm sure.
I'm just like, well, come on, man, tell us. But what other metal band like Maiden? I thought it was kind of odd they weren't on it.
Yeah, I agree.
That was odd because that history goes way back.
Anthrax. I mean, Lamb of God was there, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, just looking at the heavy bands.
No, Judas Priest wasn't on there, were they?
No Priest.
That's an interesting one too. That wasn't. That didn't. I don't know, man. Rob, our front of house guy Phil Pagano. He and Scotty, our stage manager for Saliva, worked with Halford, and they have just such good stories about Rob Halford and how cool. I don't know if you've ever interviewed him or whatever, but okay. I mean, he's super dude. So I mean, I couldn't imagine him putting himself or maybe his management putting them in a predicament like that either. But you just never know because things can get so touchy.
Mhm.
You know, when you're that on that level, one false move and, you know, again, like you said, you piss Sharon off, dude. She'll go to the mat with your ass and
Yeah,
fucking she ain't playing around, dude. Like that
yeah.
motherfucker, she's
She's
you don't
a
want to go
beast.
against her, man.
Mhm.
She's scary, you
She's
know,
a beast.
honestly.
It would have been pretty cool to see, like, if you look at all the artists that were there, they should have been there. And I love that they included, up and coming artists, and I shouldn't say up and coming, but newer artists.
Sure.
I'm now a huge fan. I'm going to go and just listen to everything Youngblood has put out.
Yeah.
As much as I hate the name, I just hate that name. Sounds like a rapper. That's what I thought he was, a rapper. It's a stupid name. But anyway, I as a person, as an artist, I'm a fan now because of what I saw there. Um, it would have been cool to see a surprise, Carrie Underwood, who's a huge rock and roll enthusiast, right? Or
Yeah.
like a Taylor Swift come out and do something. I was surprised that Lita Ford wasn't there. If she was, I missed it.
Interesting. Yes.
She
They
still
have hits
performs.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, she still performs. She still tours.
Hmm.
She was not there to do, Close Your Eyes.
What a great song, man. When
Great
that came out, holy shit. You couldn't escape it. That was another one of those MTV, the whole duet thing that just made complete sense for
Mm.
that community and metal and rock. I mean, what a
Well, that
monster of a song, dude.
that album, that was kind of Ozzy's Metallica's Black. I had Mama, I'm Coming Home. It had every radio friendly,
Yeah.
mainstream ear grabbing song on there. And you're listening to it. And then, like in my case, my older brother that's 10 years older, he's going, dude, that's Ozzy from Sabbath. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
Ozzy from, like, yeah, it's Dark Side of the Moon, Paranoid. I mean, all this stuff. Like, oh, the same guy. Yeah. Hey, let's tone it down a little bit.
But I mean, they had, like you said, Changes was they had some ballad type shits when he was in Sabbath. I mean, they didn't really like go to radio back then with it and make them some, I mean,
They couldn't.
they weren't that kind of, that wasn't the thing, and it was definitely later, I thought, when MTV got on board and rock radio and Ozzy he just ruled it, you know.
Was there what artist or band would you have liked to have seen at the final Sabbath Ozzy show?
That wasn't there.
Yeah.
Saliva. Why didn't they invite us, man? My friends are like, hey, did you get to go to that fucking thing? You've been in the business for 25 years. And I'm like, no, I wasn't invited either. Even just me. Someone invite my ass. Shit. I was like, yeah, I mean, we're pretty fucking, we put on a killer ass show. I mean, we rocked that shit live, especially imagine in front of all those people fucking hearing us rip. I mean, I feel like I paid my fucking dues. Come on, man.
I should have seen that one coming.
Yeah, man.
Outside of Saliva,
Besides us, besides the band that I'm in, fuck it. I mean, shit.
Oh God, yeah. Outside of,
I mean, I plead my case here. The prostitution rests.
You win.
Do I win?
You win. You win, sir.
Oh man!
Outside of Saliva, who would
Yeah.
you like to have seen there?
Oh man. Biscuit wasn't there, were they? Biscuit didn't do it, did they? I
No.
thought that might have been cool because, their spin on an Ozzy tune, I think, could have been different.
Well, they can
Because
spin the Who, behind Blue Eyes, right? They can.
yeah,
They can spin Ozzy.
yeah, Fred. That's one that they did that I was really impressed with Fred's vocal, because he was never really known. He's more rapping and he'd sing some parts, but when he and I worked together back in the day, he was more like trying to do like a Scott Weiland thing with the band I was kind of working with way back in the mid 90s, and I always liked his voice that way. So then when he came out with Limp Bizkit, it was different. It was, he kind of had that high pitched kind of "Hey man, wake up!" And he was kind of rapping and doing, but it was so fresh and original. I was like, I mean, no one sounded like him. I didn't think. He had some Cypress Hill in there. He had some. You could tell they were heavily influenced by Deftones and Korn, but they still kind of had their own thing. And I mean, they revolutionized that sound. I thought. I mean,
Yeah.
so not having them there, you have to wonder if they were invited. I would think they would be. Maybe not. I mean, Sharon. I mean, they were on Ozfest. I remember. Do you remember the footage of them? I think they were this was like their first record on Ozfest, like '97, and they have a big toilet bowl on stage, right? And
Oh yeah.
Fred comes up from the shit
Yeah.
in the toilet. I just shit like that, man. I mean,
I think I was at that Ozfest, West Palm
Yeah.
Beach.
Oh, okay. I know Bobby went. I didn't go to that one. I don't know what I was doing or what I was thinking by not going, but yeah.
Yeah, I think I was at that one. One last thing about the Final Sabbath Ozzy show is, and this is some, fairly inside information that I know, which I was surprised that the show went on. Ozzy suffering from Parkinson's as well as other things. I was told that by the person, Jack had reached out to this individual to help Ozzy physically get in good enough shape to stand. And Ozzy had said, to his family, and then related to this person that can perform miracles for people physically, and said, he goes, "I'm not doing the show unless I can stand. I refuse to do the show sitting down."
I heard that too.
I don't know if they worked together, because if they did, they were going to do, kind of a documentary on it and stuff like this. I haven't talked to this individual in a couple months since we had that conversation. So I don't know if it ever went through or not. It might have just been kind of one of those things where, fuck it. I'm just, I'm not going to sit in a wheelchair, but put me in a throne so I look cool. And that'll work. But I do know, according to the source, that Ozzy Osbourne said, to Jack, because Jack was the one communicating to this person, said, my dad will not go on stage for his final show unless he stands. And I was surprised that he went on stage.
He still went on stage and he was sitting, but you could see him. He wanted to stand. Like he was trying, a couple times. He was trying to do it. And it just, at least, as far as his vocal performance went,
that was great.
Yeah, you wouldn't know that he was handicapped in any other way, in all those other ways, I thought he sang the songs and all things considered, it was great. He did a great job.
Yeah. I wonder what the atmosphere was like, just side stage, backstage, it must have just been just the coolest rock experience ever. You see, and you would see a ton of people side stage, which was really surprising.
Yeah, there was a lot of people side stage. It was like a whole nother crowd side stage. And if you look at him, you're like, okay, he's from that band. A lot of it was the other bands that were there watching. That was pretty cool. They let him stay up there like that. Because a lot of times there's something like that. They're like, all right, clear the stage. And unless you have a certain pass, you ain't up there. Or if they're blowing off pyro and they got explosions and shit, they're like, everybody get the fuck out. It's just too dangerous to have random people up there in some situations. But yeah, that was cool. And at least the chair he was sitting in, that looked so Ozzy. That was so sad, just so cool looking, man.
Yeah. I wonder if it was Dave Grohl's old throne retooled. Because that throne then was passed over to Axl Rose. Yeah, it was the same. It was the same Grohl chair. Is that how that went? Was it Grohl to Axl or Axl to Grohl? One of the two. I think Grohl got injured first, and then Axl got injured second, and they used, I believe, the same chair. It was like, ship that motherfucker.
Yeah, I remember seeing Alice in Chains in '92 or '3 on the Dirt Tour, and Lane had broken his leg in a motorcycle accident, and it was in Orlando at the Edge, and he would, for part of it, he would sit down in like a chair. It was like, and of course he's doing angry chair, and he's sitting in the angry chair, and then And then part of the show, he had like a crutch and he would be standing like, singing, but he still fucking kicked its ass, dude. He killed that shit, dude. I don't know if you've seen Alice in Chains live, right? But did you see him back then? Because
I've seen him back then, and I've seen him with William Duvall. Yeah.
okay. Because so when Lane was, and on that tour, especially on that record cycle, and that fucking record, to me, Dirt is like, that's a hard one to beat. But he couldn't have sang it any better. I mean, it was scary how good that motherfucker was. But did you happen to notice that Matt Cameron, in other news,
Yeah. He
left to Pearl Jam? Yeah, I
Pearl.
thought that was interesting. And then everyone's like, well, maybe he's going to go to the Foo Fighters and all this. And so it might be. And then someone in the comments, of course, I'm reading, and I hear Josh Freese is available. I was like, damn, people are ruthless, dude, because of course the Foos let him go. But
yeah, you want it. You just, you get to that point and you're like, okay, it's just time. I mean, you money's not an issue, legacy's not an issue. You've won. There's nothing else to win. Right. Yeah. And when you're at that, I mean, Matt Cameron wasn't even the original drummer for Pearl Jam, if you remember.
No, he wasn't.
And so but you've won the game. It's not like outside of touring, if you don't want to do that anymore, which I couldn't live that lifestyle. You want to stay home with your family. Maybe he's got grandkids now and he wants to watch them grow up. You don't want to, I mean, again, I wouldn't want to be some of these older artists, these older bands that are still out there touring a lot, and you're in your 70s. I know you love the music. I get it. It's in your blood. It's an addiction. It's an endorphin rush. I understand that, but you're losing life. You're not winning life, and you're not going to be around your family. That sucks.
It does suck, but I mean, you would hope that some of these guys on that level, they're not out there grinding. I mean, when the Godsmack thing happened and Shannon and Tony, they were, now that was a legitimate thing where they didn't really want to tour as much, but those kind of tours, it's not like they're in a van. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's like a white glove situation, right? You show up, you got techs, I mean, you're not Green Day going around in the van punk rock style, dragging your shit around. I mean, you're fucking, it's laid out. I mean, you're Godsmack, for Christ's sake. So, and if that's what you do in life, try leaving it, dude. After I was let go from Shinedown, I thought, I didn't know what was going to happen, but all I knew was I was fucking miserable. And granted, I was a lot younger when that happened. And then again, it's something at any age. I mean, you look at Alice Cooper, dude. He's still doing it, man. And Stones, for Christ's sake, are still out there somehow, still alive somehow, and rocking and doing it. But it's a tough thing to leave, man. It's a tough, because then you're at home with your family, and obviously, if you have a loving family, you obviously miss them when you're gone, and they miss you, and it's great to be home, but you start getting that itch, man, when you're home too long. Like Saliva right now has been home too long. I'm fucking like losing it over here, bro. So, it's one of those things, and just especially just doing like, weekend shows and shit. And I'm just like, and then not even a lot of weekends in there, and it's gonna pick up, and it will, but it's just you just start getting like, dude, like, the fuck am I gonna go? Plus you need income, and everyone needs income,
right?
Whether it's in September or whether it's in July, I need the income.
I concur. That's why I need people to subscribe to the other shows on the podcast feed. Please need income. Go to jasonbailey.com and subscribe. It's very simple and it's much appreciated. That's why we would love to have more sponsors on the podcast.
Let's go, sponsors, please.
jasonbailey.com. Think about it. Your business associated with 3 different shows, 5 days a week, of course, including this one, the Vinyl Road Podcast. Just reach out to me, have a conversation. It's all about income, right? Income. All right, before we get to a couple questions, Saliva news, anything of note to bring up to the fans of Saliva?
I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but there's a video being edited for the next single by our boy Jeff Mosey, which we shot I want to say we're on the Hinder tour. I think we were in Missoula, Montana, at the Wilma. I don't know if you're familiar. It's a cool spot. And
No.
first of all, that town, I was like, man, you know, I get to town sometimes and I'm like, how can I move here or have like a place here? Because it's a cool town. Because, you know, you're like, man, you're cruising around. It's like nestled in the mountains, and it's a college is there, and there's a lot of locally owned businesses and history and stuff like that there. But so yes, there's another single coming. Most people that know the record would probably figure out what that song is at this point. So I don't even have to say it, but it'll be out sooner than later. We just got a show that came in with Five Finger Death Punch, September 1st in Michigan, Soaring Eagle Casino, which I don't know if that's going to be part of a tour or what. Bobby had just called me actually, because I called him earlier to get the Saliva news, but he wasn't available. So as far as I know, yeah, and obviously we had talked last week about the potential for a run with Earshot in September, October too, and you know things are in the works. We got irons in the fire, and just nothing I can really announce
So
until
this
it's
would
official.
be a falling into income. Fall income. Yeah.
Income is nice in the fall. Yes, we like it. We do.
Because Christmas, you need
Sure,
income
Chris.
to buy Christmas prizes. That's
Dude, my November is crazy. My birthday, both my son's birthday, my anniversary. We got Thanksgiving. Like November for me is nuts. But yeah.
all right. Questions for Brad every episode. I'm going to get to a couple at least. I know Ashley, who has become like the biggest fan of the podcast. I know she's been a diehard Brad Stewart fan for a gazillion years, but absolutely amazing person. I've just met her through Brad, and she's, put together a private, I think it's a private Facebook group for the Vinyl Road podcast. And then she's also put up a post that will stay up all the time for any questions that you would like to ask Brad for the episode. So I'm just going to kind of go to that every week because she's offered that up. And on top of that, this girl's an amazing graphic artist. So when you see her on social media, and you need some of that work done, reach out to her. This girl's like got way cool skills. So thank you, Ashley.
Yes, thanks very much. Thank you.
Great. Amazing. All right, here we go. Questions for Brad. Alaska picker, Kelly Turney. Are there any deep cuts from Shinedown, Fuel, or Saliva that you would like to play live but haven't for one reason or another? Thanks, and I love the podcast. Great question. Good question, Kelly.
So Shinedown, back in the day, I know you had an issue with the band not putting out Better Version as a single.
Still to this day, I do. Yep.
So I think for those guys, that would be cool to add that song into the set, or maybe Stranger Inside from the first record.
Okay.
That was always a fun one to do back when we were doing it. Now the band's not doing it anymore. Obviously, they have so many songs. I mean, at this point, I'd hate to be the one designing their set list. As far as Fuel goes, the record I was a part of was called Puppet Strings. And it was a cool record. It was different for Fuel. It was a little more rootsy. There was some southernness to it, I felt. So but I wouldn't see the new version of Fuel playing anything from that record.
Yeah.
But we always, when I was in the band, Mary Pretends was one of them that we never would play live. Saliva, let's see. So the records I've been a part of, we're not playing Crowd Goes Wild right now, which I think would be a fun one. And that may or may not be the next single.
I think
so. Maybe, who knows these days,
Such a great title for a song for a band like Saliva, for anthem-y type of music, for Saliva's an anthem type of band, right?
Yeah.
So what a great title.
There are people in Nashville, songwriters, and that's what they do, is they come up with either the title of the song, and then the songwriters will work backwards from there.
Oh,
that's actually a thing. Yeah, it is.
God, tell me how to get that gig. I always wanted to be the guy that came up for the name of the Killers. So you've got the guy that's in the town and he's a serial killer, and he's using a German battle mace, and he's killing just, elderly women, and and then he's got a certain like, get all these details and you put them together and it's like, he's the German battle mace killer. That's, my great, brilliant idea. You know what I mean?
Okay.
They always have like the Band-Aid bandit or the muffler mustache mangler, all those things. I always wanted to be that guy. So I could be the guy that comes up with the song titles. Totally could come up with the song titles.
You should.
And
I
get
mean,
that.
yeah.
Tell me where to apply. All right, Brian Hansen, question for Brad. Are there any musicians you knew were great, but still surprised when you got a chance to play with them? Don't let the question asker sway your answer. See you at Rocklahoma. I don't know have I asked that question. Did I ask that last week or not?
No. The question asker is actually the late great Wayne Sweeney's nephew.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Wayne, Brian, of course, and his mom Linda, they're sweetheart. They're awesome people, and so I would have to say Wayne would be that person. And I remember Wayne from back in the day when 2003, 2002, whatever, it's in Shinedown's like actually supporting Saliva. We're either right before them or we're the opener, and just seeing even that long ago, seeing Wayne, he just had the swagger, man. He just had this. Just some people just have like kind of like Zach Wild or Dime or Eddie. They just have a thing beyond just standing there playing the guitar and the notes. People kind of scared of them. They're kind of dangerous looking, like, and especially when he started getting neck tattoos and shit. But then once I got into the band with him, I was just like even more like, wow, this dude is. He was something special to be on stage with, and just he was one of those guys you couldn't take your eyes off of him, and he was so funny. He'd have one in-ear in this ear, and it would be the click track as loud as it would possibly go, right? And then the other ear would be out, and the guitar would be fucking like it literally redlining the amp, like pegging the shit, and Wayne's standing there. And, towards the end, he was fucking deaf. Our front of house guy was like, where's that coming from? And he can't figure out how he's hearing the click, the tempo. And he could hear it bleeding through the mics from Wayne's fucking ears. That's how loud it was in his ears.
That's funny.
But no, Wayne would be that guy that to answer the question, definitely that once I got into a band with them, I always thought he was just a monster player in person. But when I got in the band, I just had a whole another level of respect. All
right, there you go, Brian. See you at Rocklahoma. You guys playing Rocklahoma?
We are.
Oh,
that's coming up
cool.
pretty soon. Yeah, that's a big one. And I think someone had asked that question. I'd played it before, oddly enough, when I was with Fuel, and Saliva was on the same stage, and I think ZZ Top, if I'm not mistaken, was headline that day. And I don't know if you ever heard that story, but there was some drama between the ZZ Top camp and the Saliva camp at one time.
No.
Where actually shots were fired at the bus, like gunshots at the Saliva bus. Yeah, it got weird. Something happened in catering. I'd have to confirm with Paul Crosby, but something was said by one of their crew people of ZZ Top, and Saliva heard it, and it got weird. I think there was like a brawl and some shit, and it got crazy. And later on, someone was shooting at the bus.
Whoa, dude, that's a great story. That's crazy.
I wasn't around to totally. Maybe we'll have Paul on here and he can tell it. Now, Paul's a hoot, man. He's one of the funniest people I know, so I have to reach out with him, see if he'll come on.
It's like Billy Gibbons came out with a gun and started going, "You motherfucking Saliva, motherfuckers!" Boom, 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 boom. I could totally see that.
I don't know if it was the actual band guys or if it was just more like crew versus crew or how what exactly. Billy seems like a good dude. I don't know if I couldn't see him going. I don't know. He's from Texas. Fuck, who knows? some rogue
crew guy doing it. All right, look, I just want to do a couple questions, just because I want to kind of keep these podcasts at a certain time. But look, let's just say this before we finish things up. Great response, and we're only 6 episodes in to this Vinyl Road podcast. I know Brad thinks the same way. Can't thank you enough. Like, this is awesome. And just remember, like, the feed that it's on, I've rebranded that called the BPX, the Bailey Podcast Exchange, but there's 3 different shows 5 days a week. Monday I release a podcast with my wife called Honey, I Raised the Kids, about us becoming empty nesters. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, more like my radio show. It's kind of a variety entertainment show. Talk about everything, have guests on and stuff like that, called the BS, the Bailey Show. And then Friday with Brad, we do the Vinyl Road Podcast. So I've created this kind of channel is the idea. And again, if you are a business and would like to sponsor the entire channel, we would love to talk to you. Absolutely love to have that conversation. And of course, follow us on social media. Every show has got its own social media, at least for Instagram. So for this, for example, at the Vinyl Road Podcast on Instagram, as we try to build that up, right? And then listen to the BS and stuff. But all that's on jasonbailey.com. So please share this stuff, become a fan, let people know about it, especially, Saliva fans and Shinedown fans and Fuel fans that love Brad, and make sure that they know he's now got a place where he can voice his opinions about things. Even though I know he'd much rather talk about politics, we're not talking about some music and rock and roll. That's what we're going to talk about.
That or UFOs, aliens?
UFOs. We can
conspiracy theorists, JFK, Twin Towers.
Okay.
Any and all the above. I love all that shit. So, but and maybe we could sneak it in there at some time. Maybe a part of the show could be the conspiracy of the week.
Okay. You want to do a conspiracy of the week? I tell you what, you send me each week, or if I can do it,
okay. We'll figure it out. Yeah.
Or a listener can send us a conspiracy they want us to touch on without going into detail. I mean, we can do a whole show on conspiracy.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, there's only so many out there that, well, I guess there's a lot of them out there. We just have to find them. Anyway. All right, buddy. You got anything before we get out?
I just want to say I'm grateful, like always, at the end of these, for everyone listening. It's real quick. The drummer of Saliva, Sammy Jo Bishop, she told me, I guess it was at the last show, that her dad Eddie likes the podcast and is listening and I've met her parents a couple of times. They're totally just sweet people, but he'll send her clips of us doing our thing on here. And I just was like, man, that's so cool. Like that. You don't know who's listening or who's into it. And I just thought it was so cool that he connects with what we're doing and supports it. And I just want to say thanks for listening to him and to everybody. And, it means a lot.
Yeah.
I kind of felt bad for a minute because I say fuck a lot with the F-bombs, but then I'm like, hey, she's a grown ass man. He don't care.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
If you're going to put clips of the show, post them. Like, that helps us out tremendously. So I've always liked, when fans of, whether it's the radio show or my podcast and stuff, where they'll actually pull the clips themselves and they'll post it themselves, so that helps shows like this tremendously get over on the internet so people can hear it. But yeah, that's cool. Thank you guys for doing that. All right. Again, listen, jasonbailey.com. Have yourself a great, safe rest of your day. If you're going to be doing some drinking, I understand. I get it. If you've had too much, please don't get behind the wheel of a car. I've lost way too many friends like that. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
I think we should do a podcast about rock and roll. I got some stories.
That's it for this episode. Check out jasonbailey.com for more shows. Until next time.
3 different shows, 5 days a week, 1 feed, details, and to subscribe, jasonbailey.com.